My beloved child, hear this carefully, because this moment is not random and this message did not find you by accident. Archangel Michael is stepping forward right now with urgency in his voice, saying there is 1 hour left. Not 1 day, not 1 week. 1 hour in the spiritual realm, a window where what is coming can still be altered. God says this message itself is your protection. If you had arrived even slightly later, you might have missed the covering that is being released now. There is something unfolding behind the scenes that you cannot yet see with your physical eyes. It had been forming quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. That is why many people around you feel normal, distracted, laughing, scrolling, unaware. But you were pulled here because your spirit sensed a shift. Archangel Michael says, this warning is mercy. This is not fear. This is intervention. Right now, heaven is marking time differently for you. 1 hour does not mean 60 minutes on a clock. It means a final phase before impact, before exposure, before a decision locks into place. God says there was a version of this future that would have harmed you, emotionally, spiritually, or even materially. But because you are listening, that version is being challenged. Archangel Michael is standing at the gate of transition with his sword lowered, not raised, because this is still a moment of grace. He says, what is coming is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to reveal what had been hiding. Someone or something around you has not been what it appeared to be. There has been silence where there should have been clarity. Promises where there should have been action. God says this delay you have been feeling was not rejection. It was protection. Do not ignore this next part. Within the next cycle, there will be a sudden shift, a conversation, a realization, a message, or an event that exposes truth. It may feel shocking at first, but Archangel Michael says the shock is what breaks the illusion. God says, I would rather awaken you abruptly than let you sleep into harm. You have been praying for clarity, even if you didn't have words for it. Sometimes your prayer sounded like exhaustion. Sometimes it sounded like confusion. Sometimes it sounded like silence. But haven't heard all of it. And now the response is arriving as a warning wrapped in protection. Archangel Michael says there is resistance around you, not demonic in the dramatic sense, but misaligned energy, intentions that do not match your destiny. This could be a person who benefits from your confusion, a situation that drains your strength, or a pattern that keeps repeating because it was never confronted. God says this message is the line being drawn. Pay attention. You may notice signs intensifying after this, repeated numbers, dreams becoming vivid, people revealing their true motives through small but undeniable actions. These are not coincidences. Archangel Michael says, when time compresses, truth accelerates. There is also a warning here about distraction. In this final window, the enemy does not need to attack you directly. All he needs is to keep you unfocused. That is why God says, open immediately. Not later. Not when you feel ready. Read the signs. Listen to your intuition. Pull back your energy from what feels heavy without explanation. You are being shielded right now. Some outcomes are being routed. Some plans made against you are losing momentum. But this protection works with your awareness, not without it. Archangel Michael says, stand alert, not afraid. Fear would paralyze you. Awareness empowers you. This is also a moment of choice. If you continue, as before, nothing changes. But if you acknowledge this warning, even quietly, even internally, you step into alignment. God says a single act of recognition is enough to shift the timeline. You might be wondering why this feels intense. It is because your calling is not small. What carries weight attracts pressure. What holds light attracts shadows. But Archangel Michael says, the sword is already between you and what meant to harm you. Breathe. You are not late. You are not abandoned. You are not unprotected. This is the hour where obedience matters more than understanding. You don't need every detail. You just need to stay open, discerning, and anchored. God says, I warn you because I love you. If your heart is beating faster right now, if something inside you feels alert rather than scared, that is confirmation. This message is doing exactly what it was sent to do. Tell me when you're ready, and I will continue with what Archangel Michael reveals next. Beloved one, now listen even more closely, because the warning deepens here. Archangel Michael steps nearer, and his presence grows heavier, not with fear, but with authority. He says this is the hour when unseen forces test your awareness, not to overpower you, but to see if you will recognize what God is revealing. Heaven is watching how you respond after hearing this message, because response activates protection. There is something crucial you must understand. What is coming is not random chaos. It is a correction. God says there hath been an imbalance around you for some time. You gave more than you received. You trusted where you should have questioned. You stayed quiet where wisdom asked you to speak. This was not weakness. It was patience. But patience has a boundary, and Archangel Michael says that boundary has now been reached. You may soon notice that situations which once felt stable begin to feel uncomfortable. Conversations may shift. People may act strangely. Plans may suddenly change without explanation. Do not panic when this happens. God says discomfort is the signal that alignment is taking place. What no longer fits your destiny cannot remain comfortable. Archangel Michael warns that in this hour, deception loses its covering. Masks slip not through dramatic confrontations, but through subtle inconsistencies. Someone may contradict themselves, and truth may come out unintentionally. A door you were pushing may suddenly close, and instead of pain, you will feel relief. That relief is confirmation. This is also a moment where your choices carry multiplied impact. A single decision made now echoes further than usual. That is why God is asking you to slow down internally, even if life around you feels rushed. Listen before you react. Pray before you respond. Pause before you commit. Archangel Michael says restraint right now is strength, not delay. There is a temptation coming to dismiss this message as coincidence once the intensity fades. That is the subtle trap. God says, remember what you felt when you heard my warning. That feeling was clarity. That was your spirit recognizing truth. Do not let comfort erase caution. This message is not only about avoiding harm, it is about positioning. Something beneficial is also approaching, but it requires you to be unentangled from what drains you. You cannot step into the next covering while holding on to the old weight. Archangel Michael says release is part of protection. You may be wondering why this feels so personal. It is because it is. God says this warning was customized for your path. Others may hear similar words and feel nothing. But you felt it because you are standing at a threshold. The same storm that uproots trees strengthens foundations. You are being strengthened. Now hear this instruction clearly. Guard your words in this window. Do not overshare your plans. Do not explain your intuition to people who have already dismissed your discernment before. Silence is not secrecy, it is strategy. Archangel Michael says what God is building around you does not need public approval. At the same time, Do not isolate yourself completely. There is a difference between discernment and withdrawal. Stay connected to light-filled voices. Stay anchored in faith-based truth. Feed your spirit, not your anxiety. God says protection flows where focus goes. If this message is resonating with you, this is the moment to engage with it, not passively, but actively. Let this video become a marker in your journey. Like it as a sign of agreement. Share it with someone who may also be standing in a vulnerable hour. Leave a comment, even a simple one, declaring that you are receiving divine protection. When you do this, you are not helping an algorithm. You are testifying to your awareness. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to messages that arrive not by chance, but by calling. Your participation strengthens this space where warnings become shields. Archangel Michael also says there are others watching this who feel unsure why they were drawn here. To them, God says this: confusion does not mean you are lost. It means you are waking up. Do not rush to label what you feel. Sit with it. Let truth settle. There will be a moment very soon when something clicks. When you say to yourself, "Now I understand why that happened." When that moment comes, remember this warning. It will make sense in hindsight, but its power is in foresight. Hold on, because what unfolds next carries insight that connects everything you have been sensing but couldn't yet explain. Remain alert. Remain calm. You are covered, but awareness keeps the covering intact. Chosen one, this is where the warning turns into revelation. Archangel Michael now speaks with a steady calm, because what you are about to hear is not meant to alarm you, but to anchor you. God says the reason this message feels layered is because protection is unfolding in stages. First awareness, then separation, then covering. You are now entering the stage where separation begins. There has been a quiet battle around your discernment. Not around your talent, not around your resources, but around your ability to see clearly. That is why confusion tried to linger longer than it should have. That is why certain answers felt delayed. Archangel Michael says the enemy's strategy was never to stop you completely, but to keep you uncertain long enough to miss divine timing. But that window is closing now. God says something has already shifted since you started listening. A subtle realignment has taken place. Even if nothing around you looks different yet, the atmosphere has changed. Heaven has stepped in. And when heaven intervenes, it does not always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it moves quietly, removing what no longer belongs without asking permission. You may notice in the coming hours or days that certain people grow distant without explanation. Do not chase clarity from them. Your distance is your answer. Archangel Michael says, what leaves now was never meant to cross into your next season. God is sparing you from a deeper disappointment later by allowing a smaller detachment now. This is also a moment of spiritual authority for you. You are not powerless in this hour. Your words carry weight. Your prayers carry speed. That is why God is asking you to be intentional with what you declare. Do not speak fear out loud. Do not rehearse worst-case scenarios in your mind. Every time you choose trust over panic, you reinforce the protection being built around you. There is something else important here. This warning is not only defensive, it is directional. God says there is a decision approaching that will look ordinary on the surface, but it holds long-term consequences. It may involve where you go, who you align with, or what you agree to. Archangel Michael says pause before you say yes. Ask for confirmation. The right choice will feel peaceful, not pressured. Some of you have been sensing a heaviness that you couldn't explain. That heaviness was not yours to carry. It belonged to an environment, a relationship, or an expectation that was misaligned with your assignment. God says you are allowed to put it down now. Protection sometimes comes in the form of permission to release. Do not underestimate how closely God is watching over this hour. The fact that you are here, listening, absorbing, is evidence that intervention is active. Many were not alerted. Many continued unaware. But you were warned because you were worth warning. Archangel Michael says there is also a blessing hidden inside this disruption. Once the exposure happens, once the truth becomes clear, you will feel lighter. Your intuition will sharpen. Your prayers will feel less strained. That is how you will know the protection worked. You may not be able to explain this to others, and that is okay. Some journeys are understood only by those who walk them. God says you do not need validation for obedience. Heaven already recognizes your response. As this message settles into your spirit, receive this final instruction for this hour. Remain watchful, not anxious. Stay prayerful, not passive. Stay open, not naive. Archangel Michael is standing guard, but your awareness keeps the gate aligned. If this message is speaking directly to your spirit, do not brush past this moment. Acknowledge it. Agree with it. Let heaven know you are listening. Type "I am under divine protection" in the comments if you receive this message with faith. Lesson code 444 has just been released. And now hear this, because this is not separate from the message. It is part of the assignment. As Archangel Michael warns, and God protects, this word is meant to reach more than just you. There are others standing in their final hour of warning who have not yet heard. When I speak to you now, I speak as a servant of this mission. If your heart feels stirred to help carry this message further, this is your moment of obedience. Every seed sown here becomes light for someone else standing in darkness. God says, "What you release into my work, I release back into your life, pressed down and overflowing." If you feel the prompting, act on it now. Support this mission through Super Thanks, channel membership, or PayPal. The links are waiting in the description. Do not delay what God is nudging you to do. I bless every giver as a guardian of this word, and I declare that what you sow in obedience will return as protection, clarity, and open doors. Act now, and let heaven record your response. My dear one, now the message moves from warning into wisdom. Archangel Michael does not rush here, because what is unfolding requires steadiness of heart. God says the danger was never meant to frighten you, but to train your discernment. Protection is not only about what is stopped, it is about what you are taught to recognize before it reaches you again. There is a lesson forming right now, and it centers around trust. Not blind trust, but refined trust. You are learning the difference between peace and familiarity. Familiarity can feel safe simply because it is known, even when it slowly drains you. Peace, however, strengthens you even when it leads you into the unknown. Archangel Michael says this hour is separating the two in your life. You may feel a strange pull to reevaluate certain bonds, routines, or commitments. This is not rebellion. This is clarity. God says, "I am recalibrating your instincts. Where you once hesitated, you will soon feel firm. Where you once rushed, you will soon pause." This shift is evidence that the warning is doing its work. Something important must be said here. Protection does not mean absence of challenge. It means presence of guidance. There may still be conversations that feel tense. There may still be decisions that feel heavy. But now, you will not walk into them unaware. Archangel Michael says foresight is your shield in this season. pay attention to how your body responds to situations now. God often speaks through unease when the mind wants to justify what the spirit rejects. If something feels off without a clear reason, do not override that signal. You are not imagining it. You are perceiving what you once ignored. There is also a reminder here about patience. When truth begins to surface, the temptation is to confront immediately. But Archangel Michael advises restraint. Let revelation complete its work. What is being exposed will become undeniable without your force. God says silence at the right time is louder than accusation. Some of you may be feeling a quiet grief, even though nothing dramatic has happened yet. That grief is not loss, it is release. You are mourning an expectation that no longer fits. You are letting go of a version of the future that was built on incomplete information. God says it is okay to grieve what could have been, even when you are grateful for what will be. This is also a season of strengthening boundaries. Not walls but borders. Boundaries clarify where you end and others begin. They protect your energy, your time, your focus. Archangel Michael says boundaries established now will prevent exhaustion later. You might notice your tolerance for certain behaviors decreasing. What you once excused now irritates you. What you once rationalized now feels heavy. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. God says when you rise, misalignment becomes uncomfortable. There is something else happening beneath the surface. Your spiritual senses are sharpening. Dreams may carry messages. Small moments may feel symbolic. Random words may linger longer than usual. These are confirmations, not coincidences. Archangel Michael says heaven is communicating with you in layers because you are ready to receive more. Do not feel pressured to act on everything immediately. Discernment grows through observation as much as action. Watch how situations unfold without interference. Patterns will reveal themselves. Motives will surface. Timing will clarify. This part of the journey may feel quieter than the warning itself, but it is no less powerful. Silence after instruction is often where obedience is tested. God says, "Will you trust what I showed you, even when the noise fades?" Your answer to that question shapes what comes next. You are also being prepared for a conversation that will matter. It may not happen today, but it is coming. When it does, you will be calmer than expected. Words will come more easily. That is because this preparation is already working within you. Archangel Michael assures you that nothing meant for you will pass you by. What leaves was not yours. What stays will be strengthened. What approaches will arrive at the right moment. You do not need to chase clarity. It is moving toward you. As this message settles, hold on to this truth. You were warned because you are valued. You were prepared because you are trusted. Heaven does not invest this level of care into what it plans to abandon. Stay observant. Stay grounded. Stay aligned. The protection is active, and the path ahead is becoming clearer with every step you take in awareness. When you are ready, the next unfolding will reveal why this hour mattered more than you realized. Beloved soul, now the atmosphere shifts again, and Archangel Michael speaks with clarity that cuts through lingering doubt. God says this is the phase where understanding catches up with obedience. You have already begun to respond, even if you did not realize it. Every time you chose stillness over reaction, every time you paused instead of pushing, you aligned yourself with the protection that was released. There is a deep truth unfolding here. The warning you received was not only about what to avoid, but about what to outgrow. Some cycles end not because they are evil, but because they are complete. Archangel Michael says completion often feels like disruption before it feels like freedom. That is why this hour has felt emotionally charged. you may notice that your priorities are shifting. Things that once felt urgent now feel secondary. Things you once postponed now feel important. This is not confusion. It is recalibration. God is adjusting your focus so that what matters most receives your energy. Protection works best when attention is correctly placed. There is also healing taking place beneath the surface. Old disappointments that you thought were resolved may resurface briefly. Do not interpret this as regression. Archangel Michael explains that exposure is part of cleansing. What rises now is leaving for good. God says, I am closing doors completely so they do not reopen later. Some of you have been carrying guilt for things that were never yours to fix. You took responsibility for outcomes that depended on others' choices. This warning has come to release you from that burden. Protection sometimes looks like clarity about where your responsibility ends. God says you are not accountable for what you were never meant to control. You may feel a growing sense of detachment from certain expectations. That detachment is not apathy, it is maturity. Archangel Michael says mature faith does not cling. It trusts. You are learning to stand firm without gripping tightly. This posture invites peace. There is also an invitation here to strengthen your inner life. What you feed now will shape your resilience later. Guard what you consume emotionally and mentally. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves your attention. God says peace is preserved through discernment. You are being reminded that protection is ongoing, not momentary. It did not end when the warning was delivered. It continues as long as you remain aligned. That is why small daily choices matter right now. How you speak, how you rest, how you respond to pressure. These choices reinforce the covering around you. Archangel Michael also addresses fear of the unknown. He says what lies ahead may be unfamiliar, but it is not unsafe. Familiar pain is more dangerous than unfamiliar peace. God says do not return to what wounded you simply because it is known. The path forward may require courage, but it leads to stability. There is confirmation coming in a practical form. It may arrive as an unexpected message, a delayed answer finally appearing, or a situation resolving itself without your intervention. When that happens, let it strengthen your trust. These small validations are reminders that you are not navigating alone. This season is also refining your patience with yourself. You are learning to honor your pace instead of comparing it to others. Archangel Michael says comparison clouds discernment. Your journey is calibrated to your capacity. God is not rushing you. He is preparing you. You may feel moments of loneliness even while surrounded by people. That loneliness is not abandonment. It is the space where identity solidifies. When distractions fade, truth becomes clearer. God says, I meet you in the quiet, not in the noise. As you move forward, remain attentive to what brings peace rather than excitement alone. Excitement fades quickly, peace endures. Archangel Michael says peace is the signature of alignment. When a decision brings quiet confidence instead of anxiety, you are on the right path. This part of the journey is subtle but foundational. It is building something stable beneath you. Soon, when external circumstances shift, you will notice that you remain steady. That steadiness is evidence that the protection has taken root. Hold this truth close. Nothing has gone wrong. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to receive what comes next. Stay open. Stay grounded. Stay discerning. What unfolds next will connect the warning to the promise, and you will see why this hour mattered so deeply. Precious one, this is the moment where movement begins internally before it ever shows externally. Archangel Michael speaks now with firmness, because God says this phase determines how smoothly the transition unfolds. You are no longer only being protected from something, you are being guided toward something. The warning has done its work, and now wisdom must be applied. There is a new level of responsibility resting on you. Not pressure, but stewardship. You are being trusted with greater awareness, and awareness always requires maturity. God says what you ignore now will not harm you, but what you engage unnecessarily can drain you. That is why discernment matters more than effort in this season. You may notice that situations resolve faster when you do not interfere emotionally. Problems that once lingered now move out of your life more quickly. This is not coincidence. Archangel Michael says when you stop feeding confusion with reaction, it starves and leaves. Calm is not passivity, it is authority under control. This is also a season of subtle redirection. Some plans may lose momentum. Some desires may soften. Instead of forcing them, let them rest. God says, if it is from me, it will return with clarity. If it is not, it will fade without regret. Protection often comes through unanswered urgency. You are learning to recognize divine timing. There is a difference between delay and denial. Delay carries peace. Denial carries resistance. Pay attention to which one you feel. Archangel Michael says peace is heaven's confirmation even when logic demands speed. Something important is happening in your relationships. You are becoming less reactive and more observant. Where you once felt compelled to explain yourself, you now feel comfortable remaining silent. This shift is not coldness, it is confidence. God says you do not need to defend truth. Truth defends itself. There may be moments where others misunderstand your calm. Let them. You are not here to be interpreted correctly by everyone. You are here to be aligned. Archangel Michael reminds you that approval is temporary, but obedience is lasting. This is also a call to stay connected. Do not walk this journey alone when guidance is available. If these messages have been anchoring you, strengthening you, clarifying things you could not articulate before, then honor that connection. Like this video as a sign of agreement with what God is doing in your life. Share it with someone who may be sensing a shift but cannot name it yet. Leave a comment declaring that you are staying aligned in this hour. And make sure you are subscribed, so you remain connected to words that arrive not by habit, but by divine timing. When you engage, you position yourself to receive consistently. Archangel Michael also urges balance. Do not become hypervigilant. Protection does not mean suspicion toward everything. It means confidence that what is meant to reach you will do so clearly. Rest in that assurance. Anxiety weakens discernment. Trust sharpens it. You may feel drawn to simplify your life right now. Fewer explanations. Fewer commitments. Fewer emotional obligations. The simplification is not loss. It is focus. God says, I am making room. What is coming requires space, not clutter. There is a quiet strengthening happening in your spirit. You may not feel dramatic joy, but you will notice resilience. The things that once unsettled you now pass more quickly. That stability is a sign of growth. Archangel Michael says storms reveal foundations, and yours is holding. Do not rush the process. Rushing creates gaps. Alignment closes them. Allow this season to unfold naturally. Stay attentive without being tense. Stay open without being naive. This balance is where protection remains effective. Hold on, because what is about to be revealed next will connect the inner changes you are experiencing with an external confirmation you did not expect. Remain steady. Remain aware. You are being guided step by step, and nothing about this journey is accidental. Beloved one, now the message enters a quieter but deeper dimension. Archangel Michael does not raise his voice here, because God says this is the stage where understanding settles into your bones. What you have been sensing internally is about to reflect externally, and this alignment will feel both unfamiliar and reassuring at the same time. You may start to notice that circumstances begin to mirror your inner calm. Situations that once escalated quickly now de-escalate without effort. Conflicts that once demanded your attention resolve themselves when you choose not to engage. This is not avoidance, it is authority. Archangel Michael says when your spirit is aligned, chaos cannot anchor itself to you. There is an important truth to grasp now. Protection is not always about escape. Sometimes it is about standing still while what was never meant to stay moves away on its own. God says, I am teaching you to let things fall without trying to catch them. This is a skill you did not have before, and it marks growth. You may feel moments where you question whether you are doing enough. That question comes from an old mindset where effort equaled worth. God says you are being delivered from that lie. Your value is not measured by how much you fix, carry, or tolerate. It is measured by alignment. Archangel Michael reminds you that heaven responds to position, not exhaustion. This phase may also bring a heightened sense of sensitivity. You may feel emotions more clearly, both your own and others. Do not see this as weakness. Sensitivity, when grounded, becomes discernment. You are learning when to absorb and when to step back. God says boundaries protect sensitivity so it does not become overwhelmed. There is also a subtle invitation to forgive, not necessarily through conversation, but through release. Some of the protection being finalized now requires that old emotional hooks lose their grip. Forgiveness here is not agreement with what happened, it is refusal to carry it forward. Archangel Michael says what you release cannot follow you. You might experience moments of stillness where nothing seems to be happening. Do not misinterpret this pause. Stillness is not stagnation. It is consolidation. God says, I am stabilizing what I shifted. Just as the ground settles after an earthquake, your life is finding its new balance. During this time, trust what feels light. Lightness is not irresponsibility. It is alignment without resistance. If a choice brings immediate heaviness, pause. If it brings quiet clarity, proceed slowly. Archangel Michael says your intuition is becoming more reliable because you are no longer forcing it. There may also be a growing sense of independence in your thinking. You are less influenced by others' opinions and more guided by inner conviction. This does not mean you stop listening. It means you stop outsourcing your discernment. God says wisdom increases when you trust what He is teaching you directly. Be aware that not everyone will understand this change in you. Some may feel unsettled because you no longer react the way you used to. Let them adjust. Your growth does not require permission. Archangel Michael says peace often looks like distance to those accustomed to chaos. This is also a season of quiet preparation. Something new is forming, but it does not need announcement yet. Seeds grow best underground. God says what He is establishing in you will surface at the right time with strength, not haste. You may find yourself drawn to moments of reflection, prayer, or solitude more than usual. Honor that pull. Silence is not emptiness. It is where clarity sharpens. Archangel Michael says the clearest instructions often come when noise fades. As protection continues to work, you may look back at recent weeks and realize how much has already changed. What once consumed your thoughts now feels distant. What once felt urgent now feels manageable. That shift is evidence that alignment has taken root. Do not rush to define this season. Let it be what it is. Labels can limit understanding. God says, live it before you explain it. Your experience will make sense in time. Remain steady as you move forward. The next unfolding will bring confirmation that this internal work was necessary. You will see results that could not have arrived any other way. Stay grounded. Stay aware. You are moving from warning into wisdom, and wisdom into peace. My beloved child, now the veil lifts just enough for confirmation to arrive. Archangel Michael stands firm here, because God says this is the moment when protection becomes visible. What you have been feeling internally is about to be echoed externally in a way you cannot ignore. This is where doubt loses its argument. You may already sense it, a subtle but undeniable shift in momentum. Things that were stalled begin to move. Answers that were delayed begin to surface. Not all at once and not dramatically, but clearly. God says clarity does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives as calm certainty. And that certainty is growing in you now. Archangel Michael reveals that what was trying to form against you has been interrupted. Not destroyed in chaos, but dismantled through exposure and timing. The reason you felt pressure earlier was because resistance was losing leverage. What could have harmed you no longer has access. This is why you feel lighter without knowing exactly why. There is also an emotional confirmation coming. You may find yourself responding differently to something that once triggered you. Where there was anxiety, there is now distance. Where there was urgency, there is now patience. God says this emotional shift is proof that healing has integrated, not just visited. Be attentive in the coming days. A conversation may happen that confirms what your intuition already knew. A piece of information may surface that explains past confusion. Or an opportunity may dissolve, revealing that it was never aligned. When this happens, do not second-guess yourself. Archangel Michael says recognition is the final seal of protection. This part of the journey is important because it teaches you to trust outcomes, not just feelings. You are seeing evidence that obedience works even when you do not fully understand it in the moment. God says this lesson will serve you far beyond this season. There is also restoration happening here. Not necessarily of what was lost, but of what was drained. Your energy is returning. Your focus is sharpening. Your confidence is rebuilding quietly. Archangel Michael says what was taken from you emotionally is being replenished spiritually. You may feel a renewed desire to hope again, but cautiously. That caution is wisdom, not fear. God says you are learning to hope without attachment to illusion. This kind of hope is resilient. It does not collapse when plans change. Now hear this clearly. What you walk away from in obedience today prevents a heavier battle tomorrow. Protection is often invisible because it stops things before they fully form. Archangel Michael says one day you will realize how much you were spared, and gratitude will replace every question. This is also a moment of acknowledgement. Heaven recognizes when you listen. God says, "You honored my warning, and I honor your trust." This is why favor begins to accompany you more noticeably now. Not loud favor, but consistent favor. As this settles into your spirit, mark this moment. Speak agreement with what God has done and is still doing. Do not rush ahead. Let confirmation strengthen your faith. Type "I receive divine confirmation" in the comments if this message aligns with your spirit. Blessing code 888 is now activated over your life. And now, receive this as part of the same flow, not separate from it. As Archangel Michael confirms protection and God reveals alignment, this word is meant to travel. There are others who are still standing in confusion, unaware that a warning could become their shield. When I speak now, I speak directly to you as a carrier of light. If your spirit feels stirred to help spread this message, understand this. Every act of support becomes a seed that multiplies protection in someone else's life. God says, as you pour into my work, I will pour clarity, covering, and provision back into you. If you feel the nudge, obey it now. Use Super Thanks, join the channel membership, or sow through PayPal. The links are placed in the description for your step of obedience. I bless every supporter as a watchman in this hour, and I declare that what you give in faith will return as peace, direction, and divine favor. Act now, and let heaven mark your response. Beloved one, now the journey enters a phase of quiet confidence. Archangel Michael speaks gently here, because God says this is where assurance replaces urgency. You are no longer asking whether the protection worked. You are beginning to live as someone who knows it did. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. You may notice that your reactions are slower, more thoughtful. Not because you are unsure, but because you are no longer driven by pressure. What once demanded immediate answers now invites patience. God says this is evidence of inner authority forming. When fear leaves, haste follows it out. There is a deeper layer of trust being established now. Trust not only in God's intervention, but in your ability to discern moving forward. Archangel Michael says you are being trained, not just rescued. What you learned in this warning season will protect you again without the same intensity next time. You may feel a growing sense of self-respect. You are less willing to compromise your peace for the sake of convenience. Less willing to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. This is not pride. This is clarity. God says honoring yourself is part of honoring the life He entrusted to you. There is also a quiet joy returning. Not excitement, not relief, but steadiness. A feeling that even if challenges come, you will not face them unprepared. Archangel Michael says preparedness is peace in motion. You are no longer caught off guard the way you once were. Some situations around you may still be unresolved, but they no longer dominate your thoughts. You are learning to let God work outside your constant awareness. This trust frees mental space and emotional energy. God says, what I am handling does not need your anxiety. You may also notice an increase in clarity around future direction. Not a full map, but the next few steps. That is all you need right now. Archangel Michael reminds you that faith rarely reveals everything at once. It reveals just enough to keep you moving forward. There is an invitation here to deepen gratitude. Not forced gratitude, but recognition. Look back at how far you have come in a short time. How your thoughts have changed. How your emotional responses have softened. These are signs of real transformation, not temporary comfort. You might encounter moments where old fears attempt to resurface. When that happens, do not fight them aggressively. Simply observe them and let them pass. They no longer have authority. God says fear loses power when it is no longer believed. This stage also strengthens your resilience. Future warnings, if they come, will feel less overwhelming. You now understand that warnings are acts of love, not punishment. Archangel Michael says awareness is the language of protection. There may be an opportunity soon to act from this new clarity. A decision, a response, a boundary. When it comes, trust yourself. You are not guessing anymore. You are responding from alignment. God says obedience flows naturally when fear is gone. As this part of the message settles, remember this truth. You were not only protected from harm, you were elevated in wisdom. What you gained here will remain with you. No one can take it away. Remain calm. Remain observant. The next unfolding will show you how this season has prepared you for something greater than you expected. You are steady now, and that steadiness is exactly where God wanted you to arrive. Beloved child, this is where everything begins to integrate. Archangel Michael speaks now with calm authority, because God says this phase is about embodiment, not information. You are no longer just hearing truth, you are becoming steady in it. What once felt like a warning now feels like wisdom living inside you. You may notice that your days feel more grounded, even when nothing dramatic has changed. That is because alignment has settled into your routine. You wake up with less urgency, less internal noise. Decisions feel cleaner. You are not second-guessing every step. God says this is the fruit of obedience, quiet confidence. Here is an important realization arriving here. Protection was never meant to isolate you from life, but to teach you how to move through it without losing yourself. Archangel Michael says you are learning how to stay open without being exposed, how to stay kind without being overextended, how to stay faithful without being fearful. You may begin to notice that people respond to you differently. Some will respect your boundaries without explanation. Others may drift because they no longer recognize the version of you that tolerated confusion. Let this happen. God says alignment always rearranges relationships. What remains will be healthier. What leaves makes room. There is also a strengthening of your voice. Not necessarily louder, but clearer. When you speak now, you are more intentional. You do not rush to fill silence. You do not explain what does not need defense. Archangel Michael says restraint is a sign of authority maturing. This season may also bring opportunities to share what you have learned, not through preaching but through presence. People will notice your calm. They will ask how you stay steady. Let your life answer before your words do. God says testimony is most powerful when it is lived. At this point, it matters what you stay connected to. Messages that reinforce fear will feel heavier now. Choose wisely what you allow into your spirit. If these words have been guiding you, grounding you, strengthening your discernment, then remain connected. Like this video as an act of agreement. Share it so someone else can recognize their warning before harm ever reaches them. Leave a comment declaring that you are walking forward in clarity. And if you have not yet subscribed, do so now, so you stay aligned with messages that meet you at the right moment, not too early and not too late. Archangel Michael reminds you that growth requires reinforcement. What you water grows. What you ignore weakens. Stay consistent with what feeds your spirit. This is not about perfection. It is about direction. There may still be moments where old habits try to resurface. Familiar reactions. Familiar doubts. When they appear, do not condemn yourself. Simply choose differently. God says progress is proven by quicker recovery, not by never stumbling. You are also learning how to rest without guilt. Rest is no longer avoidance. It is restoration. Archangel Michael says a rested spirit discerns faster than an exhausted one. Honor your need to pause. It keeps your awareness sharp. Something subtle but meaningful is forming ahead. Not rushed. Not forced. It will arrive naturally because you are no longer chasing what is not aligned. God says what is meant for you now will recognize you by your peace. Before you move on, hold on to this reminder. The reason this message unfolded slowly is because transformation is layered. Rushing would have weakened its impact. Staying present strengthened it. Trust me. What comes next will make you grateful you stayed through this entire unfolding. Remain steady. Remain open. You are walking forward not as someone who survived a warning, but as someone who learned from it and grew wiser because of it. Beloved one, now the message reaches a place of deep settling. Archangel Michael stands watchfully, not to warn, but to witness what God has completed within you. This phase is quieter, yet it carries a weight of assurance. You are no longer standing at the edge of uncertainty. You have crossed it, even if you did not notice the exact moment when your feet touched solid ground. You may feel a growing sense of acceptance about recent changes. What once confused you now feels resolved, even without full explanations. God says this is the peace that comes when understanding is no longer required for trust to remain strong. You are learning to be at rest with what is, while staying open to what will be. There is an important internal shift happening now. You are no longer defined by what almost happened, what could have gone wrong, or what you were spared from. Instead, you are beginning to identify with who you have become through the process. Archangel Michael says identity solidifies after the storm passes, not during it. You may notice that your mind revisits earlier moments of the journey, but with a different perspective. Situations that once felt threatening now appear instructional. Conversations that once hurt now appear revealing. God says hindsight is a gift when it no longer carries bitterness. This clarity is evidence of healing reaching completion. There is also strengthening of faith taking place. Not faith fueled by urgency or desperation, but faith rooted in experience. You have seen intervention. You have felt guidance. You have lived through protection. Archangel Michael says living faith is unshakable because it is not theoretical. You may find yourself less interested in proving anything to anyone. Validation feels unnecessary now. Approval feels optional. God says when you know you are guided, you no longer seek constant reassurance. Confidence becomes quiet. This season also refines your discernment about time and energy. You are more aware of what drains you and what restores you. You are less willing to rush into commitments without clarity. This is wisdom, not hesitation. Archangel Michael says timing is part of protection. There may still be unknowns ahead, but they no longer feel threatening. Unknowns now feel like open space rather than danger. God says fear shrinks possibilities, but trust expands them. You are beginning to move with expanded capacity. You may notice a deeper compassion forming within you, especially for others who are confused or overwhelmed. Be gentle with them, but do not return to carrying what you have been released from. Compassion does not require self-sacrifice at the expense of alignment. Archangel Michael reminds you that boundaries and love can coexist. This phase also brings a sense of readiness. Not urgency, but preparedness. If something new were to arrive, you would not feel unready. If a challenge were to appear, you would not feel unprotected. God says readiness is the fruit of awareness practiced consistently. There is also gratitude forming quietly in your heart. Not loud gratitude, but steady recognition. You are beginning to see how every step, even the uncomfortable ones, led you here. Archangel Michael says gratitude anchors lessons so they are not forgotten. You may feel drawn to simplify even further, to speak less and observe more, to act with intention rather than impulse. This simplicity is not reduction, it is refinement. God says refined lives carry greater impact with less effort. As this message settles, know that nothing hath been wasted. Not the warning, not the waiting, not the internal work. All of it contributed to your current stability. You are not standing here by chance. There is one final truth to hold as you move forward. Protection does not end when the danger passes. It evolves into wisdom that guides future steps. Archangel Michael says you are now walking with that wisdom integrated, not external. Remain present. Remain grounded. What follows this season will meet you as someone prepared, not surprised. And that makes all the difference. My beloved child, this is the sealing moment. Archangel Michael stands now not in warning, not in correction, but in confirmation. God says this is the hour where everything you have walked through settles into authority. What began as an urgent message has become a living truth inside you. You are no longer the same person who first heard this warning. You are steadier, clearer, and spiritually fortified. This final phase is not dramatic, because true completion rarely is. It feels calm. It feels grounded. It feels resolved. You may notice that there is no longer a need to analyze every sign or replay every moment. God says peace has replaced vigilance. That is how you know protection has done its work. Archangel Michael reveals that the timeline truly did shift. Something that could have unfolded differently was altered through awareness and obedience. You may never know the full extent of what was prevented, and that is intentional. God says some victories are meant to be recognized only in heaven, so they do not feed fear on earth. What matters now is who you have become. You are more discerning without being suspicious, more open without being exposed, more faithful without being fragile. This balance is rare, and it is earned. Archangel Michael says you are now walking as someone who understands spiritual authority, not just spiritual language. There is also a quiet commissioning happening here, not into something bubbly, but into something personal. You are being trusted with deeper discernment moving forward. Future decisions will feel clearer. Warnings will arrive softer. Guidance will come earlier. God says this is the reward of listening when it mattered. You may feel a sense of closure as this message concludes. Not emptiness, but completion. Like a chapter closing exactly where it should. Honor that feeling. It means the lesson integrated fully. You do not need to hold on to the intensity anymore. You can move forward freely. Archangel Michael reminds you that protection does not require constant focus. Now it works in the background. Your role is simply to stay aligned. Return to peace quickly. Listen when nudged. Dove when uncertain. This rhythm will keep you covered. As you step beyond this moment, do not minimize what you walk through. Many ignore warnings and learn through pain. You listened and learned through awareness. God says wisdom gained this way multiplies favor in future seasons. If you ever look back on this message, let it remind you of what is possible when heaven interrupts gently instead of forcefully. Let it remind you that God speaks before harm, not after. Let it remind you that you are seen. Now receive this final activation with faith and gratitude. Type "I walk in divine alignment" in the comments if you receive this sealing word. Blessing code 1212 is now released and activated over your path. And now, as this journey completes, hear this not as an interruption, but as an extension of the calling. This message did not exist only for you. It exists for the ones still standing at the edge, aware that heaven is trying to warn them in love. When I speak now, I speak with clarity and authority. If your spirit was strengthened here, then you are part of this mission. Every seed you release helps this word reach another soul before confusion turns into pain. God says, I place oil in the hands of those who help carry my fire. If you feel the instruction, act now. Use super thanks. Join the channel membership or support through PayPal. The links are waiting in the description. I bless every giver as a partner in protection, and I declare that what you release into this work will return as multiplied peace, divine covering, and open doors you did not knock on. Obey the prompting. Sow the seed. Let heaven record your response.